One of the most important aspects of the treatment of diastasis recti is avoiding the exercises or the daily activities that cause more damage. So anything that causes increased intra-abdominal pressure or coning, we want to avoid. So today I'm going to review which exercises and daily activities we should avoid to protect our stomach, let the muscles come back together, and prevent doing any further damage. If you're interested in which exercises you can do to heal your diastasis recti, I have the complete guide in the description box below, and it talks about how I healed my 4-finger diastasis recti gap down to 1 finger in about 5 weeks, and so you can go and grab the guide below. Diastasis recti is when the rectus abdominal muscles or your six-pack muscles are stretched out in pregnancy, and after you deliver the baby, those muscles don't come back together like they should. So it leaves a gap and your stomach can pooch out or show that mummy tummy that women find very frustrating. So diastasis recti is really underdiagnosed, and research is showing that about 40% of women 6 months after they've had their baby still have a gap that is too big. So I will link to a video to show how you can assess to see if you have diastasis recti. But if you have more than a 2-finger gap at your belly button when you're assessing, that is too large and can cause the complications of diastasis recti. I will also link to a playlist of exercises that you can do about 10 minutes a day to heal your diastasis recti. However, I'm also going to recommend to see a pelvic floor physiotherapist so that they can give you personalized exercises and make sure that the exercises that you are doing, that you're doing them correctly, and so you're able to close those transversus abdominis or those inner core muscles to bring that gap together. Exercises that we want to avoid are anything that cause any coning or any bulging down your midline. If you look down or you have someone else assess if you're in a position you can't see, if you have any bulging or coning, that is an exercise that you want to avoid because that intra-abdominal pressure is causing strain and pulling apart those transversus abdominis muscles, which are trying to heal together. So the traditional ab exercises are the first ones that we want to avoid. So that is the sit-up and even a crunch. So we want to avoid the full sit-up, but we also want to avoid even a crunch that may cause too much pressure and strain and coning. So we're avoiding that as well. And the other thing that we want to avoid are twists. So if you're trying to do something like Russian twists, you don't want to do any of this movement. Or if you're in a yoga class and doing something like twisting like this, you don't want to do this while you have diastasis. That twisting could be pulling apart those muscles that you're working so hard to put back together. Anything that jackknifes the body we want to avoid is that puts so much pressure on the stomach. If you were doing a leg lift and bringing it up like this, that's going to be too much pressure. Even a single leg lift might be too much pressure at the beginning for you. So anything like coming up like that is also a no-no because it's just like a sit-up. So when you're getting up, you just want to make sure that you get up and down safely like that. So boat pose is going to be a no-no, bent or straight-legged, as well as planks. So when you are doing a plank, you have gravity working against you, but you also are putting too much pressure outward on those abdominal muscles. Even a modified plank on your knees or all fours may be too much for you. So you want to get someone to look at your abdominals and assess whether there's any coning, pain, or uncomfortableness, and avoid that pose if it's causing any of those symptoms. And the other exercise is going to be back bends. So this, of course, makes sense because if you are stretching out in and doing back bends, that's going to stretch out the abdominals in a way that's not safe for your diastasis recti. So in terms of daily living activities, lifting is usually where people get caught. So I moved shortly after I had a baby, which sometimes people do with an expanding family. And even just lifting those few boxes, I undid all the work and I had that mummy pooch and that bulge after moving. So it was, even though I tried not to lift the really heavy things, you really have to be careful and you don't want to be lifting anything. Lifting kids is a really tough one. If you have older kids, of course, sometimes you have to lift your kids, but you really want to try to avoid lifting anything too heavy. And if you do have to lift something, like your child if they're hurt or something, something that you can do is make sure that you contract those transversus abdominis muscles and brace before you lift. Focus on bringing those muscles together and so that pressure isn't pushing them out as you're doing the lift.